We've seen Russia over the last 4 or 5 months to at least high profile general officers that were assassinated in Moscow itself. Why have we not seen commensurate assassination of Ukrainian generals somewhere else?
Well, now you will see it. Well, actually, truth to be told, number of their high-ranking officers was killed. It's just that Russians don't do it in this way, which is sheer assassination terrorism, essentially. No, Russia has long-range fires and enough weapons to deal with this. But the point is that this is a different game now. And once the terrorism label have been brought up on the highest political level, everything changes because, as what Mr. Lavrov already stated, what he stated today, which is critical, when he said, we don't know how Trump is informed, but we know the CIA, MI6, and other people, where they are. And essentially, well, next thing, which will be, it's a warning. If they want to get out, they can get out, but not for long. And after that, it's going to be, they will be killed. Simple as that. And
now there's one other thing that Sergei Lavrov mentioned today, more an observation, which I think is accurate. And then the question is going to be and then what, and the so what. What he was talking about was in the beginning of the special military operation, or what the West calls a war, you had the Europeans were emphatic about saying they wanted the strategic defeat of Russia. They actually wanted to defeat Russia, or, at least harm them. But that was the effect. Now then, it's kind of like, no, now it's more like we want to degrade Russia. So it's like the goalposts have big time moved, but they're still trying to get it. Watch how he said it.
In rhetoric of Ursula von der Leyen, or former head of the European Council, Michel, and others like Kaja Kallas, most of European leaders are saying that support for Ukraine needs to be continued so that it could defeat Russia, and then would defeat, well, first they said it would need to defeat Russia, now it needs not to lose to Russia, and now they need to support it with ammunition. But they're saying that Ukraine deserves our support because it defends the European values.
At some point, Andrei, you got to say, all right, we wanted to defeat it first. Now, even they recognize, the Europeans, that you're not going to defeat Russia. That is, even they can't deny that anymore. You can spin that all day long. It's not. So they've changed the turn narrative now. We just don't want to lose to Russia. But you're going to. Why would the West continue to pursue a policy that just cannot succeed?
Fanatical hatred of Russian and Russian people. For most Europeans, I don't know, I am on record, but whatever the percentage, but majority, 55, 65%, I don't know. But for majority of Europeans, Russians are subhumans. I'm Slav. I'm subhuman. I'm subhuman in the eyes of the Washington establishment. Let's recall James Clapper, who stated that Russians are genetically predispositioned to steal, so I'm genetically damaged material because I'm Russian. This is how Western elites think. This is, and especially when you have, for example, Germany, and guess what? Who is von der Leyen? I mean, they had their parents or grandparents who were in Wehrmacht or SS. What do you expect? They never recovered from the trauma of being utterly defeated by Red Army. They hate Russians. So, and that same goes for the majority. I have many European friends. Some of them are very well connected, and they write me all the time, including in private and openly in my discussion. Andrei, you don't know even the half of it. I know that majority of Germans hate Russians. I mean, what is the percentage is different, and they can hate them for different reasons. But it has to be understood. Western Europe especially, they hate Russians as subhumans, as the other. And this is cultural and racial attitude which existed for, if you look at Russian history, forget about Mongol Tatars, yoke. I mean, this was Western Europe, which was invading Russia non-stop, starting from the 11th century. And then you have Alexander Nevsky, then you have the Polish invasions, then you have Napoleon, you have just non-stop, the wave after wave from Europe going, invading Russians, killing, committing atrocities. And why? And when people say, oh, World War II, Germany, no. People do not understand. It wasn't Germany. It was the unified, combined Europe. French collaborated just beautifully with Nazi Germany. Italians had two armies in the Eastern Front. Hungarians had the army on the Eastern Front. So you look intensively. Finns played a key role in the siege of Leningrad. So you look at this. This is not just Germany. These are Europeans. For them, under different pretexts. First, it is the Tsarist totalitarian society, backward, Russian animals, those Asiatic hordes. Then it's racially inferior. Then today, everything continues with the same thing. And we have to face it. It is what it is. That's the attitude. And
you talk about the attitude, that also tends into the values. One of the other things I found interesting that Sergei Lavrov said in that clip right there was he was quoting von der Leyen. He could have added in Starmer and Macron, because all of them have variously said a version of this. Ukraine, to include Zelensky, by the way, Ukraine is fighting for European values. That's why we're continuing to fight, to defend our values from Russian aggression, is the way they characterize it. But then one has to ask the question, okay, when you look at, take away all the emotion about it and just look at it in isolation, you see, okay, I could go back further, but we'll just start in December 2021 and go all the way through. There's been one side that is constantly looking for diplomacy, constantly offering off-ramps and trying to get it, and then one side is only wanting to ramp up more military operations here, and that side ain't the Russians. And one has to ask, what is the value that the Western Europeans are trying to promote?
Well, it's all simulacra. It's 1984. Orwell. It's Orwellian language. Democracy. There is no democracy in Europe, because European Commission are a bunch of the unelected bureaucrats, which essentially stomp on whatever could have been democratic. When anybody tells me that UK is democracy, I'm sorry, did they try to dissolve their Chamber of Lords, which is by inheritance? And so when you look at this, it's all for the show. The reality is they need to, which they did really well, they need to turn this, which it will be turned into, anybody who wants to debate me on this issue, it's not going to help. They do not have ability, European population, and they do not want, what many people do not understand, to do so that much. That essentially Europe will be turned into the totalitarian concentration camp, very similar to 1984. They will be talking about democracy. They will be installing all those LGBTQ, whatever. So it's totally postmodernist, anti-Christian, post-Christian values. That Europe already is. And it will get much worse. And as one of the Russian member of Duma, member of parliament, and the member of the European Parliament, he stated, we speak to Europeans and say that, Jews, how about, you have this AfD and other people, trying to offer resistance. And he said, the answer is always the same from all Europeans there. Oh, we have enough police and dogs to put it down. And they do. And they do. Look at France, what is happening. And essentially, Europe was emasculated. So it's almost psychiatric issue. Okay, we need to talk here at a much deeper cultural and psychological level what is happening with Europe, and it will be totalitarian concentration camp. And that was the idea from the Washington neocon establishment, that eventually Europe could be mobilized and be used as a ram against Russia. Ukraine was one of the, so to speak, attempts. But of course, it's ended in disaster. But that's what they thought. They think that they are good strategists. There are no good strategists anywhere near in Washington, D.C. They don't know what strategy is. There are good strategists in the United States, but they are nowhere near levels of power. Most of those people are. And that's what Washington is. And yes, they hate Russians. And look at neocons, who they are. those people, under different pretexts, they cannot forgive. Let's be very honest, even straighter to the point. They hate Russian Orthodoxy, Russian Christian Orthodox beliefs, because they view them, and it across all kinds of things, including the Christian Zionists, for example, because in the United States, who are one of the bases for for example, neocons staying in power. They elect those pro-Israeli people. They elect those, control media, and as a result, they have no reasons to love Russians. For some, some of them think that this generation of Russians are guilty of pogroms, for example. Okay.
In the last few minutes here, I want to cover one last thing that Sergei Lavrov said here, which I think is really important to kind of wrap this up. So Europe can say whatever it wants. It can hate Russians, or it can have policies that are 1984 like, etc. They can, like Zelensky, be detached from reality and say words that all day long. But at the end of the day, everything will come down. It does come down to reality on the ground. And it sounds to me like I heard a categorically different and saw a different face from Vladimir Putin last week when he was announcing this issue about the terrorist and how he can't even negotiate with a terrorist leader like what he's now calling Zelensky. His face, his whole way he described things and his tone of voice was different. Well, I hear something. I'd like your view from Lavrov here, because he's now saying, yeah, we've been trying to do diplomacy all the time throughout this war for off-ramps. But now, and this was echoed actually by Medvedev last week, that said that we already reached our last chance for a diplomatic end. Now then, the Istanbul 12-point plan was not a negotiation. It was basically a terms of surrender. And then now here Lavrov's talking about where his diplomacy are today.
So another example when diplomacy is still needed, that's the Ukrainian conflict. Our best diplomats are the fighters on the front line, our fighters on the front line.
So I don't know why they had that picture of that other guy, but that was Sergei Lavrov talking in the background. Yeah. But he's now saying our diplomats are the fighters on the ground, ergo, we're going to win the war through our diplomacy and military. How do you interpret that?
Oh, no, that's exactly what he is. I mean, he used the figure of speech. Of course, Russian diplomacy, Russian diplomatic corps was always extremely important. So in this respect, he says really nothing new. But the applause and all that was in appreciation of the activity of Russian diplomats who maintain and help maintain this conflict, if you wish, a war, a special military operation, within the limited frame, so to speak, not allowing it to spill into the global conflict. And there's no doubt there's a huge merit in this of the Russian diplomacy and diplomatic corps. That's what he meant. But the reality is, if you read attentively his points, and this is what he says, as he said today, I'm just quoting him, that I don't know how and who informs President of the United States about the operations which Ukrainian regime conducts against our country, but that we know that a huge number of American advisors sit in the SBU building. That's the fact. Nobody ever withdrew them. So that we know that there are other instructors from those countries work there. It's also the fact. But he states after that, special operation in Ukraine will continue, but in parallel, Russia is ready with the diplomatic measures. And what is the most important, he stated today, was the fact that everything what is happening on the ground will have the judicial or legitimate, so to speak, form. They will be adopted, they will be accepted, which is their diplomatic pigeon speak or pigeon language of 6, maybe 7 oblasts Ukraine will lose.
And so, you've kind of partially answered the question I was about to ask. Where do you see this going in say, the next 6, 9, maybe even 12 months? Is it going to be just a continued slow grind on the front to see how long the Ukraine side can maintain fidelity of its armed forces? Because it's hard for me to imagine that Russia's short and satisfying itself with anything short of its maximalist objectives at this point.
A regime of Zelensky will be eliminated. We know this now. And that obviously will present the new political dynamics inside whatever will be left of Ukraine. Russians are already deep in, they are actually around 10 kilometers from Sumy. So it's pretty much
10 kilometers.
Yeah, about 10, 13, depends, So, and now they are in Dnipropetrovsk. 90th Tank Division already is in. There are actually more active operations on the right bank of Dnieper. And obviously there is well, it's Minister of Defense. I don't think it's any kind of misinformation. I think it meant to be seen. Russian troops are training now constantly with the armor to force or the cross the large rivers. You can look it up; it's all over the place, to show the training for this. So we know where it is all going. And now that we have the situation, which they say, I'll give you just example. The day before yesterday, this night it got it too. Kharkov is being, absolutely, every single industrial plant that everything there is going to be is being eliminated as we speak. Kharkov alone, 2 days, the one night before, received, apart from all kinds of Iskanders and Kinjals, it received 50 geraniums. And people were outraged, why? Apart from the fact that that night Russia was using all kinds of the geraniums, drones all over the place. People were saying, why 50? Well, actually, Russia can use per 24-hour period up to 500 geraniums. That tells you a little bit about industry. So, and you can expect the escalation of this. And this week, Vladimir Putin is holding the extensive meeting with Security Council to discuss, and get this, to discuss response to the terrorist act. So whatever is coming after that, we can only sit and, speculate. But that's what Vladimir Putin stated himself.
So that's in addition to the Security Council meeting he had last week, where he had made that big statement that was on television. There's another one coming this week.
Yes, and he stated himself the agenda. It will be in relation to the discussion of the measures to, well, Putin speaks obviously always diplomatically, to the terrorist acts against Russia. And after that, he will go and talk to people of other kinds of, ways of life, so to speak, award them with all those, so just regular, public relations thing. But before that, it will be a meeting with the Security Council.
So now a number of these drone attacks that have happened since that speech was made last week, and there's been at least 3 major rounds that were, I think, increasingly set records for how many were fired. Some recording records, or some outlets rather, say that last night's was a new total number of records in terms of drone and missile strikes, etc. Can we expect that's going to either maintain that saturation of fire, or is it even possible to increase it from the Russian side? Do they have the capacity?
I want to quote Putin from 2 years ago. We didn't start anything yet. And just for people to understand what is going to happen now, all those people, which was essentially stated by Lavrov, the SBU, KUR, Budanov, all those people will be killed. If there is CIA or MI6 guys, too bad. They will be killed too. So it's like, there is a wonderful Soviet cartoon, actually. It's about Leopold the cat. And the thing about it, he fights all those 2 mice who are arrogant and jerks, but he is always like wearing slippers, nice guy, nice cat with the eye glasses, reading books. And he says, guys, let's live like friends. And he constantly thinks until he gets the pill, after he got, they got him, he gets the pill, which is called azverin, which literally means that becoming an animal. And he goes like on the rampage for like 5 minutes until those, mice are completely scared, So the Russians took this azverin pill, and that's it. I mean, there will be no red lines anymore.
Well, I think we missed our last chance for peace. I think we had it and we gave it away. Now I think the only thing that's going to be left is a kinetic victory that they're talking about. But we'll see, and we'll certainly be looking to see what happens following this next National Security Council meeting by Putin, and we'll be looking for Larry Johnson later in the week about what he experienced there. And of course, we will ask you about the socks naturally.
Socks,
but,
yeah, I have some connections to Russia. I wear only 100% cotton socks. I can help you on that.
That's good. We'll recommend that to him when we see him. But in the meantime, thank you guys very much. And if you get one time a week with Andrei Martyanov isn't enough for you, and I can't imagine why it would be, go to Smoothie X12 where he makes all kinds of videos here where you can get updates every day if you want to. So anything new on there you want to point out?
No, I mean, same old. I'm pretty consistent. I do what I do,
Yeah, same old's pretty good though. So anyway, appreciate that, and as always, grateful for your insights, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next episode.
My pleasure, Danny. Anytime.
All right, and thank you guys very much. Be sure and like and subscribe if you haven't, and we'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow on the Daniel Davis Deep Dive.